Section 42 of the Book of Household Management. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Betsy Bush in Marquette, Michigan, January 2009. The Book of Household Management by Isabella Beeton. Recipes, Chapter 19, Part 3. Veal Olive Pie, Cold Meat Cookery, No. 895. Ingredients: a few thin slices of cold fillet of veal, a few thin slices of bacon, forcemeat No. 417, a cupful of gravy, 4 tablespoons of cream, puff crust. Mode: cut thin slices from a fillet of veal, place on them thin slices of bacon, and over them a layer of forcemeat, made by recipe No. 417, with an additional seasoning of shallot and cayenne. Roll them tightly, and fill up a pie dish with them. Add the gravy and cream, cover with a puff crust, and bake from 1 to 1 1/2 hour. Should the pie be very large, allow 2 hours. The pieces of rolled veal should be about 3 inches in length, and about 3 inches round. Time. Moderate pie, 1 to 1 1/2 hour. Seasonable from March to October. Fried patties, Cold Meat Cookery, No. 896. Ingredients: cold roast veal, a few slices of cold ham, 1 egg boiled hard, pounded mace, pepper and salt to taste, gravy, cream, 1 teaspoonful of minced lemon peel, good puff paste. Mode: mince a little cold veal and ham, allowing 1/3 ham to 2/3 veal. Add egg, boiled hard and chopped, and a seasoning of pounded mace, salt, pepper, and lemon peel. Moisten with a little gravy and cream. Make a good puff paste, roll rather thin, and cut it into round or square pieces. Put the mince between 2 of them, pinch the edges to keep in the gravy, and fry a light brown. They may be also baked in patty pans. In that case they should be brushed over with the yolk of an egg before they are put in the oven. To make a variety, oysters may be substituted for the ham. Time. 15 minutes to fry the patties. Seasonable from March to October. Veal Pie, No. 897. Ingredients: 2 pounds of veal cutlets, 1 or 2 slices of lean bacon or ham, salt and pepper to taste, 2 tablespoonfuls of minced savory herbs, 2 blades of pounded mace, crust, 1 teacupful of gravy. Mode: cut the cutlets into square pieces, and season them with salt, pepper, and pounded mace. Put them in a pie dish with the savory herbs sprinkled over, and 1 or 2 slices of lean bacon or ham placed at the top. If possible, this should be previously cooked, as undressed bacon makes the veal red and spoils its appearance. Pour in a little water, cover with crust, ornament it in any way that is approved, brush it over with the yolk of an egg, and bake in a well-heated oven for about 1 1/2 hour. Pour in a good gravy after baking, which is done by removing the top ornament, and replacing it after the gravy is added. Time. About 1 1/2 hour. Average cost, 2 shillings 6 pence. Sufficient for 5 or 6 persons. Seasonable from March to October. A very veal dinner. At a dinner given by Lord Polkemmet, a Scotch nobleman and judge, his guests saw, when the covers were removed, that the fare consisted of veal broth, a roasted fillet of veal, veal cutlets, a veal pie, a calf's head, and calf's foot jelly. The judge, observing the surprise of his guests, volunteered an explanation. "Oh, it's a cough. When we kill a beast, we just eat up a side, and down the tither." Veal and ham pie. No. 898. Ingredients: 2 pounds of veal cutlets, ½ pound of boiled ham, 2 tablespoonfuls of minced savory herbs, 1/4 teaspoonful of grated nutmeg, 2 blades of pounded mace, pepper and salt to taste, a strip of lemon peel finely minced, the yolks of 2 hard-boiled eggs, half a pint of water, nearly half a pint of good strong gravy, puff crust. Mode. Cut the veal into nice square pieces, and put a layer of them at the bottom of a pie dish. Sprinkle over them a portion of the herbs, spices, seasoning, lemon peel, and the yolks of the eggs cut in slices. Cut the ham very thin, and put a layer of this in. Proceed in this manner until the dish is full, so arranging it that the ham comes out at the top. Lay a puff paste on the edge of the dish, and pour in about half a pint of water. Cover with crust, ornament it with leaves, brush it over with the yolk of an egg, and bake in a well-heated oven for 1 to 1 1/2 hour, or longer should the pie be very large. When it is taken out of the oven, pour in at the top, through a funnel, nearly half a pint of strong gravy. This should be made sufficiently good that, when cold, it may cut in a firm jelly. This pie may be very much enriched by adding a few mushrooms, oysters, or sweetbreads, but it will be found very good without any of the last named additions. Time. 1 1/2 hour, or longer should the pie be very large. Average cost 3s. Sufficient for 5 or 6 persons. Seasonable from March to October. Potted veal for breakfast. No. 899. Ingredients: to every pound of veal allow 1/4 pound of ham, cayenne and pounded mace to taste, 6 ounces of fresh butter, clarified butter. Mode. Mince the veal and ham together as finely as possible, and pound well in a mortar with cayenne, pounded mace, and fresh butter in the above proportion. When reduced to a perfectly smooth paste, press it into potting pots, and cover with clarified butter. If kept in a cool place, it will remain good some days. Seasonable from March to October. Names of calves, etc. During the time the young male calf is suckled by his mother, he is called a bull or ox calf. When turned a year old, he is called a stirk, stot, or yearling. On the completion of his 2nd year, he is called a 2-year-old bull or steer, and in some counties a twinter. Then a 3-year-old steer, and at 4, an ox or a bullock, which latter names are retained till death. It may be here remarked that the term ox is used as a general or common appellation for neat cattle, in a specific sense and irrespective of sex, as the British ox, the Indian ox. The female is termed cow, but while suckling the mother, a cow-calf at the age of a year, she is called a yearling quey. In another year, a heifer or twinter. Then a 3-year-old quey or twinter. And, at 4 years old, a cow. Other names to be regarded as provincialisms may exist in different districts. Ragout of cold veal. Cold meat cookery. No. 900. Ingredients: the remains of cold veal, 1 ounce of butter, ½ pint of gravy, thickening of butter and flour, pepper and salt to taste, 1 blade of pounded mace, 1 tablespoonful of mushroom ketchup, 1 tablespoonful of sherry, 1 dessertspoonful of lemon juice, forcemeat balls. Mode. Any part of veal will make this dish. Cut the meat into nice-looking pieces, put them in a stewpan with 1 ounce of butter, and fry a light brown. Add the gravy (hot water may be substituted for this), thicken with a little butter and flour, and stew gently about 1/4 hour. Season with pepper, salt, and pounded mace. Add the ketchup, sherry, and lemon juice. Give one boil and serve. Garnish the dish with forcemeat balls and fried rashers of bacon. Time. Altogether, 1/2 hour. Average cost, exclusive of the cold meat, 6d. Seasonable from March to October. Note: the above recipe may be varied by adding vegetables such as peas, cucumbers, lettuces, green onions cut in slices, a dozen or two of green gooseberries, not seedy, all of which should be fried a little with the meat, and then stewed in the gravy. Veal Rissoles. Cold Meat Cookery. No. 901. INGREDIENTS. A few slices of cold roast veal, a few slices of ham or bacon, 1 tablespoonful of minced parsley, 1 tablespoonful of minced savoury herbs, 1 blade of pounded mace, a very little grated nutmeg, cayenne and salt to taste, 2 eggs well beaten, bread crumbs. Mode. Mince the veal very finely with a little ham or bacon. Add the parsley, herbs, spices, and seasoning. Mix into a paste with an egg, form into balls or cones. Brush these over with egg, sprinkle with bread crumbs, and fry a rich brown. Serve with brown gravy, and garnish the dish with fried parsley. Time. About 10 minutes to fry the rissoles. Seasonable from March to October. Veal Rolls. Cold Meat Cookery. No. 902. INGREDIENTS. The remains of a cold fillet of veal, egg and bread crumbs, a few slices of fat bacon, forcemeat No. 417. Mode. Cut a few slices from a cold fillet of veal, 1/2 inch thick, rub them over with egg, lay a thin slice of fat bacon over each piece of veal, brush these with the egg, and over this spread the forcemeat thinly. Roll up each piece tightly. Egg and bread crumb them, and fry them a rich brown. Serve with a mushroom sauce or brown gravy. Time. 10 to 15 minutes to fry the rolls. Seasonable from March to October. Shoulder of veal stuffed and stewed. No. 903. INGREDIENTS. A shoulder of veal, a few slices of ham or bacon, forcemeat No. 417, 3 carrots, 2 onions, salt and pepper to taste, a faggot of savoury herbs, 3 blades of pounded mace, water, thickening of butter and flour. Mode. Bone the joint by carefully detaching the meat from the blade bone on one side, and then on the other, being particular not to pierce the skin. Then cut the bone from the knuckle and take it out. Fill the cavity whence the bone was taken with the forcemeat made by recipe No. 417. Roll and bind the veal up tightly. Put it into a stewpan with the carrots, onions, seasoning, herbs, and mace. Pour in just sufficient water to cover it, and let it stew, very gently, for about 5 hours. Before taking it up, try if it is properly done by thrusting a larding needle in it. If it penetrates easily, it is sufficiently cooked. Strain and skim the gravy, thicken with butter and flour, give one boil, and pour it round the meat. A few young carrots may be boiled and placed round the dish as a garnish, and when in season, green peas should always be served with this dish. Time. 5 hours. Average cost, 7d. per pound. Sufficient for 8 or 9 persons. Seasonable from March to October. The fattening of calves. The fattening of calves for the market is an important business in Lanarkshire or Clydesdale, and numbers of newly dropped calves are regularly carried there from the farmers of the adjacent districts, in order to be prepared for the butcher. The mode of feeding them is very simple. Milk is the chief article of their diet, and of this the calves require a sufficient supply from first to last. Added to this, they must be kept in a well-aired place, neither too hot nor too cold, and freely supplied with dry litter. It is usual to exclude the light, at all events to a great degree, and to put within their reach a lump of chalk, which they are very fond of licking. Thus fed, calves at the end of 8 or 9 weeks often attain a very large size, viz. 18 to 20 stone, exclusive of the offal. Far heavier weights have occurred, and without this deterioration in the delicacy and richness of the flesh. This mode of feeding upon milk alone at first appears to be very expensive, but it is not so, when all things are taken into consideration. For at the age of 9 or 10 weeks a calf, originally purchased for 8 shillings, will realize nearly the same number of pounds. For 4 or even 6 weeks the milk of one cow is sufficient. Indeed, half that quantity is enough for the first fortnight, but after the 5th or 6th week it will consume the greater portion of the milk of 2 moderate cows, but then it requires neither oil cake nor linseed, nor any other food. Usually, however, the calves are not kept beyond the age of 6 weeks, and will then sell for 5 or 6 pounds each. The milk of the cow is then ready for a successor. In this manner a relay of calves may be prepared for the markets from early spring to the end of summer, a plan more advantageous than that of overfeeding one to a useless degree of corpulency. VEAL SAUSAGES. No. 904. INGREDIENTS. Equal quantities of fat bacon and lean veal. To every pound of meat allow 1 teaspoonful of minced sage, salt and pepper to taste. Mode. Chop the meat and bacon finely, and to every pound allow the above proportion of very finely minced sage. Add a seasoning of pepper and salt. Mix the whole well together. Make it into flat cakes and fry a nice brown. Seasonable from March to October. Stewed veal with peas, young carrots, and new potatoes. No. 905. INGREDIENTS. 3 or 4 pounds of the loin or neck of veal, 15 young carrots, a few green onions, 1 pint of green peas, 12 new potatoes, a bunch of savoury herbs, pepper and salt to taste, 1 tablespoonful of lemon juice, 2 tablespoonfuls of tomato sauce, 2 tablespoonfuls of mushroom ketchup. Mode. Dredge the meat with flour, and roast or bake it about 3/4 an hour. It should acquire a nice brown colour. Put the meat into a saucepan with the carrots, onions, potatoes, herbs, pepper and salt. Pour over it sufficient boiling water to cover it, and stew gently for 2 hours. Take out the meat and herbs, put it in a deep dish, skim off all the fat from the gravy, and flavour it with lemon juice, tomato sauce, and mushroom ketchup in the above proportion. Have ready a pint of green peas boiled, put them with the meat, pour over it the gravy, and serve. The dish may be garnished with a few force meat balls. The meat, when preferred, may be cut into chops, and floured and fried instead of being roasted, and any part of veal dressed in this way will be found extremely savoury and good. Time. 3 hours. Average cost, 9d. per pound. Sufficient for 6 or 7 persons. Seasonable with peas from June to August. Baked sweetbreads, an entree. No. 906. INGREDIENTS. 3 sweetbreads, egg and breadcrumbs, oiled butter, 3 slices of toast, brown gravy. Mode. Choose large white sweetbreads, put them into warm water to draw out the blood, and to improve their colour. Let them remain for rather more than 1 hour, then put them into boiling water, and allow them to simmer for about 10 minutes, which renders them firm. Take them up, drain them, brush over with egg, sprinkle with breadcrumbs, dip them in egg again, and then into more breadcrumbs. Drop on them a little oiled butter, and put the sweetbreads into a moderately heated oven and let them bake for nearly 3/4 hour. Make 3 pieces of toast, place the sweetbreads on the toast, and pour round, but not over them, a good brown gravy. Time. To soak 1 hour, to be boiled 10 minutes, baked 40 minutes. Average cost, 1s. to 5s. Sufficient for an entrée. Seasonable in full season from May to August. Fried Sweetbreads à la Maître d'Hôtel, an entrée. No. 907. INGREDIENTS. 3 sweetbreads, egg and breadcrumbs, 1/4 pound of butter, salt and pepper to taste, rather more than 1/2 pint of Maître d'Hôtel sauce, No. 466. Mode. Soak the sweetbreads in warm water for an hour, then boil them for 10 minutes. Cut them in slices. Egg and breadcrumb them, season with pepper and salt, and put them into a frying pan with the above proportion of butter. Keep turning them until done, which will be in about 10 minutes. Dish them and pour over them a Maître d'Hôtel sauce, made by recipe No. 466. The dish may be garnished with slices of cut lemon. Time. To soak 1 hour, to be broiled 10 minutes, to be fried about 10 minutes. Average cost, 1s. to 5s., according to the season. Sufficient for an entrée. Seasonable in full season from May to August. Note. The egg and breadcrumb may be omitted, and the slices of sweetbread dredged with a little flour instead, and a good gravy may be substituted for the Maître d'Hôtel sauce. This is a very simple method of dressing them. Stewed Sweetbreads, an entrée. No. 908. INGREDIENTS. 3 sweetbreads, 1 pint of white stock, No. 107, thickening of butter and flour, 6 tablespoons of cream, 1 tablespoonful of lemon juice, 1 blade of pounded mace, white pepper and salt to taste. Mode. Soak the sweetbreads in warm water for 1 hour, and boil them for 10 minutes. Take them out, put them into cold water for a few minutes. Lay them in a stewpan with the stock, and simmer them gently for rather more than 1/2 hour. Dish them, thicken the gravy with a little butter and flour, let it boil up, add the remaining ingredients, allow the sauce to get quite hot but not boil, and pour it over the sweetbreads. Time. To soak 1 hour, to be boiled 10 minutes, stewed rather more than 1/2 hour. Average cost, from 1s. to 5s., according to the season. Sufficient for an entrée. Seasonable in full season from May to August. Note. A few mushrooms added to this dish and stewed with the sweetbreads will be found an improvement. Season and choice of veal. Veal, like all other meats, has its season of plenty. The best veal, and the largest supply, are to be had from March to the end of July. It comes principally from the western counties, and is generally of the Alderney breed. In purchasing veal, its whiteness and fineness of grain should be considered, the colour being especially of the utmost consequence. Veal may be bought at all times of the year and of excellent quality, but is generally very dear except in the months of plenty. Stewed Tendrons de Vieux, an entrée. No. 909. INGREDIENTS. The gristles from 2 breasts of veal, stock No. 107, 1 faggot of savoury herbs, 2 blades of pounded mace, 4 cloves, 2 carrots, 2 onions, a strip of lemon peel. Mode. The tendrons or gristles, which are found round the front of the breast of veal, are now very frequently served as an entrée, and when well dressed make a nice and favourite dish. Detach the gristles from the bone, and cut them neatly out, so as not to spoil the joint for roasting or stewing. Put them into a stewpan with sufficient stock No. 107 to cover them. Add the herbs, mace, cloves, carrots, onions, and lemon, and simmer these for nearly or quite 4 hours. They should be stewed until a fork will enter the meat easily. Take them up, drain them, strain the gravy, boil it down to a glaze, with which glaze the meat. Dish the tendrons in a circle, with croutons fried of a nice color placed between each, and put mushroom sauce or puree of green peas or tomatoes in the middle. Time. 4 hours. Sufficient for 1 entrée. Seasonable, with peas, from June to August. Cowpox or variola. It is to Dr. Jenner, of Berkeley, Gloucestershire, who died in 1823, that we owe the practice of vaccination, as a preservative from the attack of that destructive scourge of the human race, the smallpox. The experiments of this philosophic man were begun in 1797, and published the next year. He had observed that cows were subject to a certain infectious eruption of the teats, and that those persons who became affected by it while milking the cattle escaped the smallpox raging around them. This fact, known to farmers from time immemorial, led him to a course of experiments, the result of which all are acquainted with. Tendrons de Vieux, an entrée. No. 910. INGREDIENTS. The gristles from 2 breasts of veal, stock No. 107, 1 faggot of savoury herbs, 1 blade of pounded mace, 4 cloves, 2 carrots, 2 onions, a strip of lemon peel, egg and bread crumbs, 2 tablespoonfuls of chopped mushrooms, salt and pepper to taste, 2 tablespoonfuls of sherry, the yolk of 1 egg, 3 tablespoons of cream. Mode. After removing the gristles from the breast of veal, stew them for 4 hours, as in the preceding recipe, with stock, herbs, mace, cloves, carrots, onions, and lemon peel. When perfectly tender, lift them out and remove any bones or hard parts remaining. Put them between 2 dishes with a weight on the top, and when cold, cut them into slices. Brush them over with egg, sprinkle with bread crumbs, and fry a pale brown. Take half pint of the gravy they were boiled in, add 2 tablespoonfuls of chopped mushrooms, a seasoning of salt and pepper, the sherry, and the yolk of an egg beaten with 3 tablespoonfuls of cream. Stir the sauce over the fire until it thickens. When it is on the point of boiling, dish the tendrons in a circle, and pour the sauce in the middle. Tendrons are dressed in a variety of ways, with sauce à l'Espagnole, vegetables of all kinds. When they are served with a puree, they should always be glazed. Time. 4 1/2 hours. Average cost, usually bought with breast of veal. Sufficient for an entrée. Seasonable from March to October. Tête de Vieux en Tortue, an entrée. No. 911. INGREDIENTS. Half a calf's head, or the remains of a cold boiled one, rather more than 1 pint of good white stock, No. 107, 1 glass of sherry or Madeira, cayenne and salt to taste, about 12 mushroom buttons when obtainable, 6 hard-boiled eggs, 4 gherkins, 8 quenelles or forcemeat balls, No. 422 or 423, 12 crayfish, 12 croutons. Mode. Half a calf's head is sufficient to make a good entrée, and if there are any remains of a cold one left from the preceding day, it will answer very well for this dish. After boiling the head until tender, remove the bones and cut the meat into neat pieces. Put the stock into a stewpan, add the wine and a seasoning of salt and cayenne. Fry the mushrooms in butter for 2 or 3 minutes, and add these to the gravy. Boil this quickly until somewhat reduced, then put in the yolks of the hard-boiled eggs whole, the whites cut in small pieces, and the gherkins chopped. Have ready a few veal quenelles made by recipe No. 422 or 423. Add these with the slices of head to the other ingredients, and let the whole get thoroughly hot, without boiling. Arrange the pieces of head as high in the centre of the dish as possible. Pour over them the ragout, and garnish with the crayfish and croutons placed alternately. A little of the gravy should also be served in a tureen. Time. about ½ hour to reduce the stock. Sufficient for 6 or 7 persons. Average cost, exclusive of the calf's head, 2s. 9d. Seasonable from March to October. A Frenchman's Opinion of Veal. A great authority in his native Paris tells us that veal as a meat is but little nourishing, is relaxing, and sufficiently difficult of digestion. Lending itself as it does, he says, to all the flowery imagery of the French tongue and manner, to so many metaphors, it may be called without exaggeration the chameleon of the kitchen. Who has not eaten calf's head au naturel, simply boiled with the skin on, its flavour heightened by sauce just a little sharp? It is a dish as wholesome as it is agreeable, and one that the most inexperienced cook may serve with success. Calves' feet à la poulet, au gratin, fried, etc. Les cervelles served in the same manner, and under the same names. Sweetbreads en fricandeau, piqués en fin. All these offer most satisfactory entrees, which the art of the cook, more or less, varies for the gratification of his glory and the well-being of our appetites. We have not spoken in the above catalogue either of the liver, or of the fraise, or of the ears, which also share the honour of appearing at our tables. Where is the man not acquainted with calf's liver à la bourgeoise, the most frequent and convenient dish at unpretentious tables? The fraise, cooked in water and eaten with vinegar, is a wholesome and agreeable dish, and contains a mucilage well adapted for delicate persons. Calves' ears have, in common with the feet and cervelles, the advantage of being able to be eaten either fried or à la poulet, and besides can be made into a farce, with the addition of peas, onions, cheese, etc. Neither is it confined to the calf's tongue, or even the eyes, that these shall dispute alone the glory of awakening the taste of man. Thus the frisure, which, as is known, comprises the heart, the mew, and the rate, although not a very recherché dish, lends itself to all the caprices of an expert artist, and may, under various marvellous disguises, deceive and please, and even awake our appetite. Verily, we might say, after this rhapsody of our neighbour, that his country's veal will not suffer in him as an able and eloquent exponent and admirer. Veal carving. Breast of veal. No. 912. The carving of a breast of veal is not dissimilar to that of a forequarter of lamb, when the shoulders have been taken off. The breast of veal consists of 2 parts, the rib bones and the gristly brisket. These 2 parts should first be separated by sharply passing the knife in the direction of the lines 1, 2. When they are entirely divided, the rib bones should be carved in the direction of the lines 1 to 2. When they are entirely divided, the rib bones should be carved in the direction of the lines 5 to 6, and the brisket can be helped by cutting pieces in the direction 3 to 4. The carver should ask the guests whether they have a preference for the brisket or ribs, and if there be a sweetbread served with the dish, as it often is with roast breast of veal, each person should receive a piece. Calf's head. No. 913. This is not altogether the most easy-looking dish to cut when it is put before a carver for the first time. There is not much real difficulty in the operation. However, when the head has been attentively examined, and after the manner of a phrenologist, you get to know its bumps, good and bad. In the first place, inserting the knife quite down to the bone, cut slices in the direction of the line 1 to 2. With each of these should be helped a piece of what is called the throat sweetbread, cut in the direction of from 3 to 4. The eye and the flesh round are favourite morsels with many, and should be given to those at the table who are known to be the greatest connoisseurs. The jawbone being removed, there will then be found some nice lean, and the palate, which is reckoned by some a titbit, lies under the head. On a separate dish there is always served the tongue and brains, and each guest should be asked to take some of these. Fillet of veal. The carving of this joint is similar to that of a round of beef. Slices, not too thick, in the direction of the line 1 to 2 are cut, and the only point to be careful about is that the veal be evenly carved. Between the flap and the meat the stuffing is inserted, and a small portion of this should be served to every guest. The persons whom the host wishes most to honour should be asked if they like the delicious brown outside slice, as this, by many, is exceedingly relished. Knuckle of veal, No. 915. The engraving showing the dotted line from 1 to 2 sufficiently indicates the direction which should be given to the knife in carving this dish. The best slices are those from the thickest part of the knuckle, that is, outside the line 1 to 2. Loin of veal, No. 916. As is the case with a loin of mutton, the careful jointing of a loin of veal is more than half the battle in carving it. If the butcher be negligent in this matter, he should be admonished, for there is nothing more annoying or irritating to an inexperienced carver than to be obliged to turn his knife in all directions to find the exact place where it should be inserted in order to divide the bones. When the jointing is properly performed, there is little difficulty in carrying the knife down in the direction of the line 1 to 2. To each guest should be given a piece of the kidney and kidney fat, which lie underneath, and are considered great delicacies. Section 42.